reason for choosing hydrogen energy. And also I'll be discussing about electrolysis and seawater electrolysis, and the challenges faced in seawater electrolysis and the strategies to overcome the seawater electrolysis. At last, I'll be showing few slides of electrochemical studies of seawater. As we know that whatever non-renewable energy resources we are using in the recent times are mainly due to coal, gas and oil. In this graph, you can see that we are already in the depletion. Like coal will last up to like another 60 years, and gas maybe another for 40 years, and oil already like it's nearing its depletion, like it will last for another 30 years. So this graph shows that we are already in the depletion of fossil fuels. We need an alternative energy resources to replace these non-renewable energy resources. So this is a World Energy Survey report, so like 2017 to 28. So like to start with, like we are mainly focusing on renewable energy resources. Like there are different forms of renewable energy resources like solar energy, hydropower energy, tidal energy, wind energy, etc. In the meantime, we are also witnessing the increase in the consumption of these renewable energy. Like you can see from this graph, the major problem with these renewable energy resources are like these renewable energy resources like solar energy, wind energy, they are not continuous, and also these energies are seasonal. So due to this major drawback, we are focusing on this hydrogen energy resources. Like the major advantage of this hydrogen energy is that hydrogen is present everywhere in the form of water and air. Not only that, like hydrogen is the only element which has the higher energy density of 142 millijoule per gram. And during the production of hydrogen, we don't emit any kind of toxic, greenhouse gases like carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide. And during the consumption of hydrogen energy, we don't emit any kind of toxic byproducts. Here the byproduct formed here is water. In the same image, you can see that we are using the intermittent energy sources to split water into hydrogen and oxygen. And later we are using this hydrogen, we are storing this hydrogen, and either we can export this hydrogen energy, or like we can also use it in hydrogen engine and fuel cell by combining it with oxygen. And these fuel cells can be commercially used in industries and vehicles. Here the byproduct produced here in vehicles and in the byproduct produced here is water, which again can be reused. This whole cycle is called as hydrogen cycle. Even we have like major advantages in hydrogen energy. Like we also face few disadvantages, like currently the production of hydrogen is very expensive due to the fact that it is expensive in transporting hydrogen from one place to another. Major researchers are going on this field, but today I'm going to focus only on production of hydrogen energy. There are various ways to produce this hydrogen, like photocatalysis, steam reforming, water electrolysis, and hydrolysis. In steam reforming method, the major problem is during the production of hydrogen, it emits carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide, which is again a greenhouse gas. In photocatalysis, we directly use sunlight to split hydrogen and oxygen. But in this method, the major problem is like it is very slow, and the hydrogen produced from this method is very minimum. So that is the reason we are focusing on this water electrolysis. The major advantages of choosing this water electrolysis is water is abundantly found in our planet. Not only that, it is one of the fastest method to produce hydrogen, and the hydrogen produced during this method is it shows a high purity of hydrogen. Uh, this mechanism of water electrolysis is nothing but we are splitting the water into hydrogen and oxygen by giving an external energy. In this image, you can see the overall mechanism of water electrolysis. It usually undergoes two mechanisms. One is evolution of hydrogen taking place at the negative electrode, and another is oxygen evolution that is taking place at anode. Here, water usually requires a minimum voltage of 1.23 volt. That is like water splitting usually happens in this particular voltage, but this is a theoretical value. We usually require an additional energy to split water into hydrogen and oxygen. Here, the additional energy which we are giving is called as overpotential. In order to increase the efficiency of water electrolysis, we usually we should have a very low overpotential value. That is the main reason we are using electrocatalyst here. The major role of electrocatalyst here is to increase the efficiency of water electrolysis. Mainly, noble metals are reported as the best electrocatalyst in the recent time. But a major drawback with these noble metals are that it is very rare and it's quite expensive also. And in the recent time, many researchers are going on this noble metal electrocatalyst, and they've also succeeded in replacing this noble metal electrocatalyst with non-noble electrocatalyst in freshwater electrolysis. But again, if you're going to choose freshwater electrolysis, the major drawback in this freshwater is its scarcity. As we know that only 2.5% of the whole water resources is freshwater. In that only 1.5% is used for drinking purpose and another 1% is used for other uses, industrial uses. Due to its high scarcity, and if you're going to use this ocean or sea water, if you're going to purify this water, it is quite expensive also. And not only that, the water purification is a long-term process. That is the reason we are choosing the seawater directly. Again, is that seawater is abundantly found in our planet. Not only that, if you see like this, our ultimate aim is to use this intermittent energy sources to split water into hydrogen and oxygen. So in near seashore, we can see these windmills, solar panels. So we can directly use this energy from these windmills and solar panels and split water into hydrogen and oxygen. Even though if you're going for the seawater electrolysis, we face few challenges in seawater. The major challenge is like seawater contains lot of anions and cations. The main problem competition is between the chlorine and the oxygen. The reason is that chlorine has a standard potential of 1.36 volt and oxygen have a standard potential of 1.23 volt. The standard potential are very nearby. So if you're not able to develop a proper catalyst which can split water into hydrogen and oxygen, we may see chlorine evolving in seawater electrolysis. So our main aim is to develop a catalyst which can avoid the formation of this chlorine happening in seawater. Here in this blue region, you can see that shows that if you are able to develop a catalyst below this overpotential, we can completely avoid the formation of chlorine happening during the electrolysis process. So here our ultimate aim is to develop an electrocatalyst which can show overpotential below 480 millivolt. Not only that, seawater also have many kind of cations, which I mentioned before. Here in this graph, you can also see this 480 millivolt happens in the alkaline medium. If you're going to choose alkaline medium, again the formation of white precipitate is happening due to the other cations present in seawater. The continuous use of these white precipitate sometimes corrode the electrode surface. And not only that, seawater also contains lot of microbes and bacteria, which sometimes might poison the surface of the electrode. So in order to overcome these challenges which we are facing in seawater, we have introduced three new strategies like supporting the catalyst over a conductive material. If you are going to develop a catalyst on the surface of a substrate, we can increase the activity of the electrocatalyst. Not only that, we can directly use the substrate in industrial purpose also. And second thing is like nanostructuring the electrocatalyst. Nanostructuring usually increase the surface area, which will lead to increase the number of active sites, which further increases the activity of the electrocatalyst during the electrolysis process. And the third thing is alloying. Uh, if we are able to alloy the catalyst with a proper metal and metalloids, we can increase the number of active sites on the catalyst surface, which further increases the activity. These three are the strategies which we are following to overcome the challenges which we are facing in seawater electrolysis. Currently, I'm working on this alloying part. For my work, I've chosen metal boroids. The reason for choosing this metal boroid is like I'm using transition metal here. As we know that transition metal is very low cost because it is highly abundant in our nature. And not only that, transition metal when combined with boroids shows a very high activity and stability, which is being reported by our group in alkaline medium. By the combination of this boroid have a tendency to transfer the electron from a boroid surface to the metal sites, making them more feasible for HER and OER to happen. The synthesis method I followed here is chemical reduction method. It is nothing but adding a precursor and reducing the metal ions using a strong reducing agent, that is sodium borohydrate. And after the preparation of the catalyst, I have deposited the catalyst on the surface of the glassy carbon electrode, which is the working electrode I am using here. Before going into the electrochemical studies of COB, I've also done few characterization analysis of the COB sample. Starting with XRD, in the XRD pattern, you can see that whatever the catalyst formed here is amorphous in nature. The advantages of amorphous catalyst is that it has a flexibility to rearrange the structure depending upon the catalytic active sites. And I've also done the SEM analysis. SEM analysis showed that the particle formed here are spherical in shape and their average size is around 35 nanometer. This low in size in the particle shows that the surface area of the particle have increased. And I have also done the XPS analysis here. Usually XPS analysis shows the elements presence in the particle. Here cobalt, there is a presence of cobalt and boroid. It not only tells the elements present, it also tells about its chemical states of the element. Here, cobalt is in its oxidized state and elemental state. But if you see at the boroid plot, the binding energy of boroid is around 187.9 electron volt, and here it is coming around 191.1 electron volt. Usually the boron, pure boron have a binding energy of 187.1 electron volt. From this value, you can see that there is a positive shift in the peak, which means that boron had transferred its electron from its state to cobalt, making it more active for HER and OER. Next, I've done is electrochemical studies of COB catalyst in 3 different mediums. Here, the medium I've used here is simulated seawater. Simulated seawater is nothing but the artificial seawater which we prepare in lab. Natural seawater is the seawater from Arabian Sea. And here the alkaline medium is already the reported value from our group. See here you can see this graph shows the potential required for the hydrogen to evolve. Here I have taken the values around 10 milliampere per centimeter square. The reason for choosing this current density is like our ultimate aim is to split hydrogen and oxygen by using the solar cell or solar panel. The minimum current density required for solar cell is 10 milliampere per centimeter square. That is the reason I am choosing 10 milliampere per centimeter square. And here you can also see that the activity in artificial seawater and natural seawater shows more or less same value, which means my catalyst is acting very good in natural seawater also. I've also studied its resistance value. Here you can see that the low in resistance value means its conductivity has improved near the electrolyte surface, which can be also one of the reasons for the better in activity of HER. And in order to study its electrochemical surface area, I've taken the CV scans by varying its scan rate. And I have plotted here against scan rate and difference in current density. Here the value of, artificial seawater is showing around 1.6 millifarad per centimeter square, which shows higher surface area. As I told before, the more number of surface means the catalytic active sites have improved. This too can be the reasons for better activity in HER in all these like simulated seawater and natural seawater. Next is like I've also done its OER analysis. Yeah. In OER, you can see that here also I compared it with all the three mediums. One is simulated seawater, and the other is natural seawater and the alkaline medium. Here the values are below 480 millivolt. As I shown in my previous slide, in order to avoid the hypochlorite formation which is formed in seawater, overpotential should be below 480 millivolt. Here you can see that whatever the overpotential I am observing here is below 480 millivolt, which shows that there is no chlorine evolution happening during the overall electrolysis process. And next is this is a slow scan CV. This usually tells the intermediate formation that is happening during the OER. OER usually takes place in 4 steps. It ha So HCr is the hydrogen evolution reaction happening, sir, and OER is the oxygen evolution reaction happening in the electrolysis. Usually, we are splitting the water into hydrogen and oxygen. So, in order to measure that, we are using HCr and OER. This is a slow scan LSP, which shows the intermediate formation that is happening in artificial seawater and natural seawater. Here, the high simulated seawater shows a very high intensity, which means there is a more number of species on the surface of the electrocatalyst, which can readily form this intermediate that is happening during OER process. Next is the conductivity. Here the conductivity of the natural seawater is very high, which means which can be also the reason for this high in activity, which also shows that there are a lot of cations and anions, which increases the conductivity of the electrocatalyst here. And next is the two electrode system. This is a two electrode system for industrial purpose we use only two electrode system. Here I have deposited the catalyst on the surface of both the electrodes like anode and cathode, and I have tested it in different medium. And I have compared it with the platinum, the best reported electrocatalyst, which is platinum and ruthenium oxide. Here you can see that whatever the electrocatalyst I've developed in lab is showing very high value when compared to the best reported electrocatalyst, which means still further improvement is needed in this area. But still you can see that at higher current, my catalyst is acting better than the best reported electrocatalyst, which is platinum and ruthenium oxide. Next is the stability test. Usually for a catalyst to be for a catalyst to be told as a very good catalyst for OER and HER, it should have very good activity, stability, and selectivity in electrolysis. So previously I've shown the activity of my catalyst. It's showing a very good activity in all these three medium. And next is the stability test. Here the stability test shows that the catalyst is very stable even after 10 hours of runs, which means there is no degradation happening during the electrolysis process. And next is the selectivity test. In order to show the competition between chlorine evolution and OER, we usually do a selectivity test. Here the selectivity test I've done is O-tolerant test. O-tolerant test is nothing but in order to see the chlorine evolution happening, we usually do this O-tolerant test. Here you can see that I have compared it with the calibrated NaOCl, which is sodium hypochlorite, and the other two samples are with simulated seawater and seawater, which shows there is no change in color, which means there is no evolution of chlorine happening in my catalyst. And to prove this, I have also taken the UV visible spectra. The UV visible spectra of NaOCl shows a peak, which means there is a chlorine evolution there. But for the other two medium, there is no such peaks, which means there is no no trace of chlorine there. After this, I've also done another work like COPB. Here, I've also added another phosphor into this boroids. Here you can see again the whatever the catalyst formed here is amorphous in nature, and also taken the same analysis for the same. Again, the particles are in nanoparticles, spherical in shape, and you can see the comparative study here of COPB, COB, and ruthenium oxide. Here you can see I've only in excuse me. Here you can see the OER activity of COPV and COB and ruthenium oxide. It shows that after the addition of phosphate, the activity of COPV have further increased. I'm not enclosing much about this data because currently I'm working on this COPV sample. This is a video of hydrogen evolving at a 1.5 volt battery. Usually hydrogen and oxygen splits at 2 volt battery. Here, after the addition of my catalyst, the hydrogen and oxygen evolution is happening at 1.5 volt battery, which means my catalyst can be commercially used in industries. That's all. Thank you. No, no, it's not time constraint. See, in order, soon after we start the electrolysis, hydrogen and oxygen split. It's not time constraint. We usually use a system potentiostat. We just connect the electrodes to that and we'll just start and hydrogen and oxygen will evolve.
Is there like any rate of evolution? Like this much hydrogen per minute or per second when you apply?
Yes, sir, that can be calculated using Faraday efficiency. Like using usually we also use another test for this OER, selectivity test. From that we can calculate the how much efficiency volume of hydrogen and oxygen has evolved. From that we do a calculation and we find the efficiency of hydrogen and oxygen formed.
One thing you mentioned that there is something that you call overpotential.
Yeah.
What is the theoretical? What is the reason for that?
Usually water splitting takes place in 1.23 volt. That is a theoretical value. Even other factors include in that. The reason is like that is the standard potential for the water splitting to happen. That is the reason.
So why do you need more than that? Than the theoretical? What are the factors?
Entropy. I think so. Yeah. Three electrode system, usually in industrial purpose we use two electrode system. We use only cathode and anode. We don't use three electrode system. Usually three electrode system is used to calculate the potential of that particular electrode. We either use anode or cathode to calculate. We either calculate anode or cathode by giving a counter electrode and a reference electrode. But two electrode system is used commercially. We can calculate the correct potential of that particular electrode. Yeah, with that particular reference. Yeah. I have measured the size of the nanoparticles, right? The lower the size, the higher the surface area. So if I'm having the higher surface area means more number of catalytic active sites are there, which is proved from the electrochemical surface area. Yeah, nanostructuring by increase. Even nanostructuring is one of the strategy. Here, whatever catalyst I'm forming is agglomerated. Okay, that is the reason for the spherical in shape. If you're going for nanostructuring, we can make 2D, 3D, which can increase the surface area also. Surface area. Efficiency in the sense, I don't know. That I'm not sure about.
Let me just rephrase that because there is some energy required.
Yeah, hydrogen. We are actually giving more energies to split hydrogen. That is the major drawback. The how much lower we.
As of now, it's still energy negative.
Yeah.
Right.
So we have to lower the excess energy which we are giving to water to split hydrogen and oxygen. Lower the value means
Compared to the
theoretical value.
So my question as a follow-up was that to split hydrogen.
Yeah.
So from the hydrogen that you have got from there and when you use it as fuel, what is the benefit? Is it still energy negative now, or
No.
is it or by what factor is it energy positive? Is that some? Is there a way to determine that?
Till now, I'm not sure about it. So I'll just read about it.
Even last year you said like you are using 1.5 volt to that. What is the current consumption?
I didn't measure that. I've just see the hydrogen and oxygen evolving from there. I didn't measure the current.
Can you go back to that plot where you showed? Here you're measuring the stability.
No, this is two electrode systems. This is the stability.
So that black is simulated seawater from your and the pink is
No, both are simulated seawater. Difference is one is hydrogen evolution and another is oxygen evolution.
my question is like all the plots that is for what I understood was you were getting lesser values for natural seawater, but you're getting like the optimal result for the simulated solution. So like there is a certain gap between the simulation and
Yeah.
right? So how do you plan to
See, usually artificial water like here, what I'm using only I'm adding NaCl, chlorine, and KOH. I'm not adding all the ions. Okay, it's just a seawater which I'm preparing in the lab. Natural seawater have more ions and cations. Like we can't just prepare the natural seawater at lab. It's a demo. That's all. So that may be the reason for the increase in the, I mean, lower in activity in natural seawater when compared to simulated seawater. So still my catalyst is showing a comparatively better activity, but still works on need to be done. I'm testing everything in room temperature now. No, I'm not using any temperature or pressure. So that is the one of the advantage for using seawater electrolysis. But even using temperature, we can.
I have a very pressing question. How did you collect natural seawater from the Arabian? You said Arabian Sea.
Yeah.
Did you go to the beach and collect it?
No, sir. I had my students when they come.
So they went to the beach.
Yeah, they collected it for me.
No, I thought this can be written in a proposal to collect seawater.
I'll make a note of it, sir.
The supervisor can go to Goa.
Yeah. A reversible hydrogen electrode. Like it's a yeah. What I didn't hear. Can you repeat it again? Yeah, two electrode system. Yeah. Reversible hydrogen electrode. We used to calibrate that with reference to standard hydrogen electrode. But here we are not first. But for two electrode system, starting we'll prepare the surface of the electrodes, right? Starting before going into hydrogen. Starting before doing two electrode system, we'll prepare the surface of hydrogen and the oxygen. And it will show some potential, and later only we'll take two electrode system. That may be the reason why we are referring it with. Yeah. Yeah. We are measuring for that particular current when we know how much potential we are getting. That is what you're meaning it, right? I'm not understanding your question. Another is counter and
Now, when I'm using two, I am not considering what is the like. Can I lot three might be different temperature, but
Yeah.
put the difference why here. It's a very confusing for us to understand the difference.
This is not reference. It's a.
This you're saying